All right, we ready? And grab your bag and go. That's it, move, move. Go, 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 go. One, Armani suits and run.
All right.
All right. Week 16, Armani suits and run. Um, Last week's podcast, great vibes. We were rolling after a big week and really excited, starting to talk different scenarios. What if we did this? What if we did that? And went 1-4. And feel like all that momentum screeching halt. Tough week. Went 1-2 on the individual picks. Lost the Sunday night pick, and then Costanza us. It did not work last week. So we'll go through the individuals. I was on the Bengals -5. They beat the Titans by 10. Um, Seemed to handle them pretty easily. To the point Titans are making a quarterback change again. But good to get that win. Kieran, you were on the Commanders -7.5. It was against the Saints. I mean, they were winning that game like handily.
Mhm.
And then they just like did nothing, it felt like in the second half. I feel like Jaden Daniels also missed Terry McLaurin on like three deep balls, like missed by inches that would have broken that game wide open. And instead they found themselves in a situation. What was the whole thing with the clock at the end? Which was like,
They
The NFL cheats and lies.
yeah, like
Took
they
conduct.
they stopped the clock when it should have kept running, and that allowed
yeah,
At
Saints
like
to
at
set
like the
up and score
nine.
that, touchdown for the potential tie or win.
yeah.
I mean, it didn't have any implications on our spread, I don't think,
No,
No,
because
right?
we
Because
no.
the
were,
2 point conversion was for the win, so it's like they were still, within that number. But yeah, I mean, it was tough. I mean, sometimes, even though it's going from, really shitty to maybe less shitty at quarterback. Like I don't think Rattler's great, but
yeah,
you can't really foresee that type of stuff. And at the at the matchup they had, they were dominating them. I mean, the offense still wasn't doing fantastic, but I mean they were, scoring. They were keeping them outside of that number. So I felt really good about it in that second half or in that first half, and then Rattler came in, changed everything up, and I don't know, they just took the foot off the gas. But I mean, I guess it maybe is, part of a bit of a larger problem with the Commanders, where it feels like they are maybe getting a bit flat late in the season. I know people were talking about that Kingsbury cliff and everything. And then, you're also going to factor in Jaden Daniels, right? I mean, he gets off to a hot start, and especially when it's a quarterback that can run like that, there's so much more that you have to account for than,
yeah,
some sort of pocket passer. It feels like maybe the league, I'm not saying that he's like bad or anything, but it feels like they're catching up a little bit, and it's time for him to start kind of pushing back and gaining some ground. But yeah, it feels like there maybe is a little bit of fatigue with the Commanders late in the season, at
yeah.
least compared to their hot start. But yeah, it was just brutal. I mean, felt so good in that first half to really not even come close. To
17-0, 20-7. And like I said, there were three. I saw a clip. There were three different deep balls in the fourth quarter that, I mean, we're talking inches from them connecting on
yeah,
three different occasions. It's just like brutal. Brutal.
It's tough with the Commanders too. Is they really like have no depth. Like if Terry McLaurin's not doing that, and making pulling down those catches, like they have Noah Brown and Zach Ertz who are both hurt, but those guys are like every down players for them. I think they both got hurt last week, so they're literally playing with like I couldn't even tell you who else besides Terry McLaurin.
yeah, it's like
On that
Olamide
offense.
Zacchaeus and Luke
Right.
McCaffrey.
So it's like when you need them to push that number ahead 7.5, it's like it's
Yeah.
tough,
And even
unless
like,
Terry
I
McLaurin
mean,
is
Brian
doing crazy
Robinson's
shit.
great, but they don't have Eckler around right now. They don't have, I don't even know who's the third guy that was playing for them. Like they're down to like Chris Rodriguez in that
Yeah.
backfield. Like
Yeah.
they really are just kind of running on fumes when it comes to their depth, at least offensively. I can't really speak on their defense too much. I don't know too
Yeah.
much about them.
Yeah. All right. And then Bowen, you were on the Panthers -2.5. I think the story there was like what, first time in God knows how many games that the Panthers were a favorite. Um, Went with it and just man, for as strong as they've looked, the last few weeks, as competitive as they've played, they just did not show up. They were completely flat. Um, Cowboys just kind of put it to them. It's tough.
Yeah. Oh, actually, I didn't want to be saying this while the pick was still happening. But after we got off the call last week, I immediately got off and I was like, man, that Panthers bet is not hitting. Like they just there's no way the Panthers are like covering that 2.5.
That was like an immediate like I'm gonna regret this pick.
I mean, Micah Parsons like is a game wrecker. He wrecked the game.
Yeah.
He bullied the fuck out of Bryce in that offensive line, and when you fumble the ball twice from the quarterback and you throw 2 picks, and you also have like a bottom 2 or 3 defense in the league, doesn't bode well. Cooper Rush
Yeah.
can move the ball well enough. You almost need to play perfect on that offensive side of the ball for the Panthers to win a game. Never mind cover a spread. So, yeah, probably a short-sighted pick by me. I was drinking the Bryce Kool-Aid, which is a hell of a drug, but
I mean, they had looked good. I mean, they'd looked good the few weeks prior, and they were starting to find something. And I mean, there's something about the Cowboys have stayed competitive despite everything. And but I was on that Panther side. I thought they were going to show up and get that win.
yeah.
And yeah, that was just. I mean, they brought nothing to the table. So
Yeah, it's one of those things, I mean, you go either way. Like I'm sure that it's probably 50-50 historically, but I always do get a little skeptical when it's like a bad team is a favorite for the first time in like years.
yeah, I
It's
mean,
like the same. It's like the same way when the Dodgers are underdogs in baseball for the first time in like 352 games or something like that. You're like, oh fuck! Like
yeah,
you almost
yeah,
have to bet them to win.
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. So, all right, and then we go to the Sunday night. So we had it was the Packers and the Seahawks. Packers are 2.5 point favorites. Kieran and I were on the Seahawks plus 2.5, so that was the pick that we made. Bowen, you were on the Packers, and man, it was all Packers, all
Yeah.
Packers. I mean, that wasn't even close. We were out of that game early.
I mean, the first drive when Josh Jacobs in that offense just ran the ball seemingly every play,
Yeah,
and scored like pretty efficiently. It felt over there, in a weird way. It just if they're able to do that on the first drive, it's only going to get worse throughout the rest of the game when guys get tired and the big horse running back running down your throat like 25 times, and their other backs are supplementing, and it's tough if you can't stop the run against a team that likes to run the ball.
yeah, 26 carries for 94 yards for Jacobs.
Yeah, and it wasn't even it wasn't a pretty 94 yards. It was just
Yeah,
like 3-4 yards, beat the shit out of you. And
yep.
also Gino got hurt, which was a weird injury, and Sam Howell looked incredibly incompetent.
He
So
looked like Sam Howell. I mean,
yeah,
Mhm.
he did.
Yeah, that was tough. I don't know, Kieran, any thoughts on that one or
No, I mean, we were just on the wrong side. They
yeah.
just played a really good game, but I mean, it's a good team.
Speaking of being on the wrong side, Costanza. Um, so for Monday night there were 2 games. And the wheel blessed us with the Raiders and the Falcons. Um, what was it? They were what, 4 point?
I will say, if anything, the other one we were just on the wrong side. I think we were on the right side here. We just didn't win. If you look at that and you think like, oh wow, like, we weren't even close. I mean, the Falcons, they scored a touchdown on the first drive, and then it was safety, field goal the rest of the way. We just didn't get the quarterback play that we needed. Aiden O'Connell definitely would have been more ideal. He can actually
Yeah.
step in there and throw the ball a little bit. I mean, I know he's not perfect. He's like the 30th best starting quarterback in the league or something, but yeah, I mean, Ritter just didn't have the juice. Like that was really all that it was. I mean, I think that we were on the right side. We were just outside of the number, and I think Zach, you were saying it actually closed at. We actually would have been good at where it closed at, but. Yeah, it was just 2 bad teams. I mean, Kirk Cousins is horrendous.
Well,
He's been benched. They're talking about cutting him before March.
Jesus.
Really?
Technically, we were on the right side because we all picked the Falcons. It was the
Oh, that's
Costanza
true. Yeah.
rule that put us on the
Yeah.
on the wrong side.
Yeah,
So,
but you get my point where it's
no,
like, I
I
mean,
know.
like there
I
are
know.
games where it's like you step, like we said, that first drive, we knew that we weren't going to cover that Seahawks spread.
Yeah.
I mean, it was always right there. It was just like we needed a touchdown. We couldn't get a
Yeah, I
touchdown.
mean I think it was a coin flip of a game in terms of a cover,
Yeah.
and we just yeah.
Like if
So
we were on the Falcon side, there never would have been a point where I was like, oh, we're
yeah,
good.
we're good, yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I would have been expecting a backdoor.
Yeah.
I the end there. So, but all right. So just to recap, 1-4 week that puts us at 35, 39 and 1. I am 8-7 and 1 in terms of individual picks. Kieran, you're 11-5. Bowen, you're 6-10. I think, Bowen, you're gonna have to win out, and I would have to lose out.
I think even then you'd still have tiebreaker, right?
There's 3 weeks left, right?
Oh fuck, I'm thinking there's 2 weeks left.
So yeah, because you'd finish 9-10, and I'd finish 8-10 and 1. So you'd have me in the win column. So, so not dead yet, but it's gonna take definitely gonna take a little work here in the end to with the Vegas trip. So, all right, should we get into the wheel?
Yeah.
Hmm. Oh,
Wow.
Wow. All right. I am going it's gross, fellas. It's gross. It's a hold your nose. It's a hold your nose pick that I don't think I'd ever think I'd do. But I'm gonna do it. It's the Jets +3 at home against the Rams. Stay with me here. The Jets are coming off a comeback win against the Jags. Rodgers and Devontae Adams clearly found something there. I think Devontae had just a touch under 200 yards receiving in the game. They kind of look like they found a bit of that rhythm that they've had in previous years and things throughout their career. So I think the Jets will be able to move the ball fine against this Rams defense that's pretty putrid. I think Breece Hall is due for a big game, and also I know this game is going to be. I think it's going to be 18 degrees. I looked up the weather projected for tomorrow. Going to be 18 degrees around that area in New York. So it's going to be a really, really cold game. I think the Jets are going to catch the Rams, who are getting a little cozy atop their division, kind of just lacking a little bit, maybe a little bit of a look ahead, or just kind of take them for granted kind of game, where the Jets are able to actually surprisingly move the ball, put up some points, and play just enough defense to stay within that number. I do think the number kind of stinks a little bit. I thought the spread would have been a little bit more on the Rams side. So I actually initially was my initial lean was the Rams until I looked into it a bit more. I just think it's one of those games that's going to smell. It's not going to make much sense, but the Jets went outright convincingly.
eh.
It's okay. It's okay.
I don't know. I crossed this game off my list like immediately because this is the same game.
All right.
This is the same game that when the Jets they were trying to tank and get Trevor Lawrence, they ended up beating the Rams and killing their own chances at getting him. That's where they ended up having to settle for Zach Wilson. Whether you think that matters or not now, whatever. I mean, I'd still much rather have Trevor Lawrence over Zach Wilson. That's just my personal opinion, but I don't know. I view myself as a bit of a Jets historian. I feel like I know them better than anybody. And I just know that, this is a game where, like I said, the history of the game, it just stinks. So I just crossed it off.
Yeah, I don't really have an opinion on it. I mean, I think it was definitely a game that, like, as I was going through the list, I was just like, I'm not even going to think about this game. There's nothing appealing. I thought this card in general this week was atrocious.
Yeah, I was grasping at straws on this card.
It's a tough week, but I will say, I mean, if nothing else, it's like, this is kind of what you want. Isn't it Stu Feiner that said, like, this is kind of what you want when you make a pick?
Yeah, you want to be like sick to your stomach.
Yeah, you want to be sick to your stomach.
For the record, I'd be sick to my stomach on either side in this game.
Yeah, but So, Bowen, you said it's a hold your nose kind of pick, so that's how you want to feel with it. So let's ride with that and see what
Yep.
happens.
Yep.
That game is when what was his name? Dr. Heat. Greg whatever, the defensive coordinator.
Go, Greg Roman.
Yeah, sent like
No,
just
no,
an
Greg Roman.
all out blitz. They just
What was it?
well, I forget what it was, but they did
The zero blitz.
yeah, they sent the I forget the exact situation, but he just sent like a zero blitz and it just made it like an easy drop back and throw down the sideline touchdown. And yeah, they just like fucked everything up because and then there was a conspiracy theory because I think the did the Pats beat the Rams earlier that year, or the Rams beat the shit out of the Pats? And then it was like, all right, now just like let and now just like let the Jets fuck it up when you play them later this year and fuck them out of a better draft spot. But yeah, it was just I just remember being out and like running errands like during the end of that game and like watching it on my phone and being like, holy shit, I can't believe the Jets actually fucking blew it. They've been talking about Trevor Lawrence all year. The Antakis have been like buying his jersey practically, and then they're just not going to get him.
Oh,
That's what
was this?
happens to New York sports fans. They did the same thing with Zion Williamson. They thought that he was a lock. They end up getting the third overall pick at RJ Barrett, and just how it goes.
Oh, this was against the Raiders.
Yeah, okay. What was I thinking then? Because they beat the Rams that year.
Um, but they were up 28-24 against the Raiders with 13 seconds left. And the Raiders were at the like 46-yard line. And basically there was nobody back there and Carr just fucking lofted one.
Yeah, that's right.
Um, it's an atrocious. You're like, how could that happen?
Okay, yeah, and I'm looking at okay, and then it was the Rams game 2 weeks later. They beat the Rams 23-20.
Yeah,
And that was supposed to be like if they lost that
they
game, they like
lost
clinched
that.
it.
Yeah.
And yeah, they ended
But I
up
was looking up, Greg Williams, zero blitz,
yeah.
and it's just like all I'm seeing, like, there's a video. Rex Ryan calls it the dumbest call I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Um, I think did he get fired because of it?
I think so. I mean, he
Yeah,
certainly didn't return that year or that week or the next year. I mean,
yeah, he
let's
got
see.
fired the
Yeah,
next
yeah,
week.
because yeah, they have. I'm looking at their team page from 2020. They have two defensive coordinators listed. So,
Yeah,
and then that guy was their inside linebackers coach. So yeah, he got promoted.
yeah, yeah. And it dropped the Jets to 0-12.
Jesus Christ.
And then they went on to beat the Rams, which is just like, holy shit. And you said, and that cost them, Kiernan?
Then okay, yeah. So I conflated the two games, but yeah, there was the zero blitz game, and then I remember it was the Rams game. They might have come back. Hold on, let me because they might have come back and won that game or something.
Well, they were up 13-3 at the half. They were up 20-3.
Yeah.
And then the Rams made it 23-17.
And then they kicked a field goal with 6.5 left, and then it looks like they
Yeah.
never had a chance to do
Yeah.
it again.
Yeah.
Now, was that Goff's last year in LA too?
Might have been. Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was Darnold's last year as the Jets starter. There was Goff's last year as the Rams starter.
Yep. And then they won a second game too. They beat Cleveland the
Yeah, they
next week.
beat Cleveland after that.
Yeah. So did then they cost themselves a draft pick?
Yeah, they did.
No
Because
shit.
they were like in the driver's seat going into that stretch, and then they played themselves out of it.
Wow.
And they were like literally sitting there for generational prospect Trevor Lawrence, and they ended up with Zach Wilson.
Wow.
All right, back to the wheel.
Yep. Oh.
Wow.
Oh.
That had a
Late,
bit more on it than I thought.
yeah, late push there by Ben.
Taking the Cardinals -4.5. Yeah, okay. The Bryce Young, since he's come back, the Panthers have been competitive. They've played well. But I feel like when you dig into it a little bit more, right? They won 2 games. They beat I believe the Giants and the Saints. Those are 2 really bad teams. Then they come back from the bye. They lose 4 straight, but they're able to cover. But they're playing good teams. They're playing the Chiefs. They're playing the Bucks. They're playing the Eagles. So obviously those are going to be bigger spreads. They're able to cover those. But then we see, right, they come back and it's people are starting to get a little bit high on them. And like you were saying, Zach, you kind of realize like, okay, the Cowboys, they had Micah Parsons, they got CeeDee Lamb. The Panthers, they just don't have that. They don't have players that can go out and play like that. Like Adam Thielen, he's really good, but he's really good as a 34-year-old receiver.
Yeah.
They still have a lot of work on the O-line. Chuba Hubbard, I think he's great, but again, he's not like the inevitable star that like a CeeDee Lamb or a Micah Parsons is, where there's just going to be one moment where CeeDee Lamb's downfield for a 40-yard catch, or Micah Parsons is just going to absolutely wreck a play with a sack or something. He doesn't quite have that sort of name value. He's not there yet. Um, I feel like they're coming in. I know that they're playing at Carolina. Kyler Murray made the whole comment about playing in cold weather. It's going to be a cold game, but I just think they're going to stomp on them. I'm looking at the matchup. I think James Conner, he's going to run all over them. He could be like a 100-yard rusher there. I think, Marvin Harrison's going to score a touchdown. I think Trey McBride's finally going to get his score, but I think it's going to be a couple passing touchdowns for Kyler. I think they're going to get whatever they want on the run game. I don't know if they're going to be able to score with James Conner or anything, but yeah, I just feel like, it should be a touchdown or more. So I'm taking the Cardinals at -4.5.
I like to pick a lot. They were in my top three for the week. Narrowing down the games. Like you said, Kieran, this Panthers team is just not equipped to really be in games or win games, especially, but even really be competitive in games. They're not built to be competitive. They're built to suck. They're a real stripped down version of an NFL team. They're really not filled with a lot of guys who will be on NFL rosters, next year, year
I
after.
feel like this is a therapy session for you for last week's pick.
No. It is what it is. It is what it is. Last week was last week, but this week, I mean, I would have said the same thing about the Panthers last week. If you asked me about like their overall roster outlook,
Yeah.
they don't have a lot of guys. So it's a big ask because the Cardinals do have a lot of guys on both sides of the ball. Buda Baker just got a new contract. So he's gonna be fucking flying around taking people's heads off. And that Trey McBride touchdown almost certainly happening this week, right?
That's gotta
Kyler talked
I
about
mean,
it.
they tried forcing it last week, so it's like it just feels like they're at that point now.
Yeah, it's like they're incredibly due. Marv is due for like at least a touchdown week. I feel like he's been a little quiet recently.
And he just continues to get shit on despite being like a very, I understand. Okay. He didn't step in and be like this, like world breaking, unbelievable Hall of Fame wide receiver off the bat. He's a very good rookie and he's had a lot of really good games, but it's like, it only feels like anytime that he has like a bit of like a dud, people just jump out and are like, holy shit, holy shit. And then it's like, well, okay, like half of his games have been like 60 yards and a touchdown. Like that's pretty
Right.
good. Like it was bothering me like a few weeks ago where Stephen Che's like running victory laps on his take that Marvin Harrison wouldn't be a top 10 wide receiver this season, fantasy wise. But it's like at the time he was like wide receiver 22. It's like, it's he's not that far behind.
This is some dirty work by DraftKings. Trey McBride is a bigger favorite to catch a touchdown this week than Marvin Harrison. He's at +115.
Wow.
Which is just like they must be taking so many freaking
I
bets
think
on
that's fair. I don't think that that's like I mean, like, yeah, like that's high odds and that's probably pushed up because of the market, but I don't think it's like crazy to have him, over.
I think it might be a
for a
little
guy that
crazy
hasn't scored
considering that he hasn't scored a touchdown all
Yeah, but
season.
but that's purely just like bad luck. Like that's not because he sucks. He has like he's
Yeah.
like one of the best tight ends in the league. Like he's still a great tight end.
Oh
And
yeah.
he's matchup. I mean, like I'm looking at Carolina. They've allowed three touchdowns to tight ends in the last 4 weeks since the bye. Like it's a good touchdown matchup, and he's a good player. Like yeah, like if it was all of a sudden, Tip Raymond, their backup tight end, was being favored over Marvin Harrison, I'd be like, that's ridiculous. But it's like, I mean, I'd argue McBride's their best receiver. I don't think it's I don't, and that's like the point of the sheet though. Like, I don't really care too much about what a player did last week. I'm more interested in what their opponent did. I'm more interested in the matchup. I think it's a good matchup for the tight end. I don't think
Well,
it's.
let me give you this. It opened at +235.
I believe that.
So it's definitely it's probably been driven down by the bet
Yeah.
volume. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That's crazy.
I'm not postpartum. Like I'm not recovering.
Wow. Missed that number. I wonder what FanDuel has. All right, so Cardinals minus 4.5.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Well, originally was going to take a game that felt so obvious to me, and it was so obvious that I was like, I can't take it. That I pivoted and went with my number 2 pick. So I'm taking the Vikings -3 over the Seahawks. Since 2022, Geno has faced, this also assumes Geno's starting, which it sounds like he's going to. He's faced teams allowing 20 points per game or less. He is 4-10-1 against the spread against them. He's failed to cover the spread by 4.1. He is dealing with that knee injury. If he struggles, they're going to have to turn back to Howell, which we saw last week. That's a dumpster fire. I think the Vikings are a hot team. They've won 7 straight. They finish against the Packers and Lions. So this feels like this is the type of game like you got to go in and you just got to take care of business. Like get the work done, get the win. And I think they're going to go out and like make a statement because like the next 2 games, like those are going to be an absolute grind. So I think they go out, take care of business against the Seahawks. I like the Vikings to cover here.
Yeah, I think it's fair. It's a blitz heavy team. He's dealing with a leg injury, so I think he's going to be under some pressure there. They're probably going to look to bring a little extra pressure, just to keep him uncomfortable. So, yeah, I think after last week, it does feel like, maybe it's like kind of a breaking point for the Seahawks where it's like, all right, you're starting to face some of like the really good teams and down the stretch, maybe you're not quite on their level. So yeah, I think it's fair. I mean, the Vikings, it always, every week, it just feels like, all right, is this the week that Sam Darnold is just going to be Sam Darnold again? But it seems like he's legit. Like, it seems like he's, even if it's just a product of Kevin O'Connell's system, like he works in that system. He's a really good quarterback right now. That wide receiver duo is great. It's a good rushing matchup for their offense as well. So I think the offense will be clicking against them. We'll see what the Seahawks offense can do against that Vikings defense. But yeah, I mean, I think just basically picking the Vikings to win by a field goal or more is, a pretty safe bet this season. So,
I like to pick. Both teams obviously playing for a lot. Gino and the Seahawks going for the division still. Tied atop with the Rams right now, and Vikings obviously have. If they win out, they get the 1 seed. Because that means they beat the Lions, in Week 18. So, they're playing for a lot. The line I thought would be a bit more, considering the Geno injury. I don't think he has an injury designation going into the weekend, but when these lines came out, I think he was still questionable. So I thought there'd be a bit more, a bit bigger spread for the Vikings on that side, just due to that kind of unknown. But maybe I'm sure Vegas knows more about the injury than we do, leading up. So
Well,
um,
they're getting Ken Walker back too. So I mean, they're probably just assuming like, they're maybe going to go run heavy,
yeah,
if they need to, and he's obviously a really good player. So that
yeah.
definitely helps them out a lot.
Yeah, but no, I like the I like the Vikings to put up a lot of points this week. That Vikings, I mean the Seahawks defense kind of showed their true colors, I think, last week. You're able to run on these guys, Aaron Jones. I think we'll be able to get downhill on them, and if that team can run the ball and have that play action pass and have that down the field stuff opened up because they can run the ball. They're virtually like unbeatable because of
Yep.
who they're throwing to, and if they're able to convert in the red zone, I mean this game could get out of hand pretty quick. So, like to pick a lot.
All right. All right. We doing Sunday. How we doing this with the man Campbell?
well, like I said right before we started recording, I got all 3 games on the wheel. And just like we've done every week, we'll spin for 2 games.
I mean, bear with me. I've been laying in bed for 4 days.
What is Lions are -6.5.
Oh,
All right. Sunday night.
All right.
What was it? I just stepped away from the.
Sunday night game. So Tampa at the Cowboys plus 3.5.
Cool.
Or Cowboys are plus 3.5, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm saying like at Cowboys
Yeah,
plus
yeah,
3.
yeah.
Okay, we're back. I was gonna say something.
Bowen.
Give me the Bucks. Cowboys. Diggs is out. He seems like I think he banged up his knee pretty bad. So he's out. Going forward probably into next year. Starting next year. Um, I think that's a big loss for them. I don't think Micah Parsons is going to be able to ruin the game the way that he did last week against the Panthers. Uh, Bucks obviously can score the hell out of the ball. I think that their defense will be able to get a timely turnover or just enough stops against Cooper Rush in that offense to get above that number pretty comfortably.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Tristan.
Mm. Okay. I'm also on the Bucks. This line perplexed me a little bit. I feel like it's begging me to take the Bucks, but I can't take the Cowboys here. They're 1-6 against the spread at home. Bucks are 5-2 against the spread on the road. I also just feel like the Bucks are the better team. They've won two straight, got a nice thing going with the 1-2 punch of Irving and White. Um, I've really, you know, I think we probably shared the video this week of, Baker at the, press conference or whatever, saying he's probably thinking about Evans' 1,000-yard mark more than Evans is, and they've been lights out the last couple of weeks. I expect them to keep that going. So I just feel like you got to take the Bucks here.
All right. All right. Well, we got a Costanza. Probably for
I
the
had a
best. I
feeling.
mean, I was already kind of leaning that way. Once Bowen gave the Bucks pick, I was like, I had a feeling that's where it was heading.
Yeah,
And then, hearing Tristan say that, where it feels like they're begging us to take they're begging us to take the Bucks or whatever, and it feels so obvious, but you can't bet the Cowboys, all that. I think it's a good thing. I had considered changing my pick once I kind of had that realization because I was like, it does just feel like it's so obvious. The line doesn't seem to make sense, right? Because like you said, Diggs is out. The Cowboys, they are awful at home. They have like one win at home. Like they just like can't
yeah,
even win there.
yeah,
They're just terrible. And the Bucks are playing for playoff position. They're looking to really put that division away. And they're playing really well and they have a lot to play for. And of course, I think they're going to be slinging it, looking to get Mike Evans his 100 yards, everything. I think he just needs 89 a game for the rest of the last 3 weeks or something. But yeah, it feels like too small of a number for the Bucks. It feels too obvious. So I got to stick to my gut there and do it and trigger the Costanza. So we are on the Cowboys plus 3.5. And for what it's
No,
worth, I mean, I feel like a lot of people still have that first Cooper Rush start against Philly where they put up 6 points in their head. He's been playing pretty well, over the last month as a starter. I mean, yeah, okay, he's a below average quarterback, but it's like he's stepping in, like he's doing what he was doing a couple of years ago. I mean, I think when he was stepping in for Dak during that ankle injury, they were like winning games and stuff. But yeah, I mean, he's playing good quarterback. So yeah, it does when you really start to dive into that line, it just
I mean, they've won
feels like a
three.
trap for the Bucks on the road.
They've won 3 of their last 4.
Rico Dowdle has
Yeah.
100 yards rushing in their past 3 games, so they've definitely found something in their rushing attack as well.
So I guess the line does make sense, and it's on squares like us to look at and be like, dude, it's
Yeah.
obviously the Bucks. And then when you put like 2 seconds of thought into it, you realize maybe it's not obvious.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Get the primetime win. All right. Here we go. It's been a while since a walk-off. There we go.
Let's fucking go.
Wow.
Can we talk about the game quick though?
Wait, can we hold on? Can I screenshot this?
Yeah.
What a moment.
What
A
are they?
walk-off,
-6.5.
a walk-off man Campbell.
Detroit -6.5 at Chicago.
That is fucking awesome. I'm gonna drop this in the group text for your records.
Yeah, I mean, if we want to talk, I mean, I think it's an interesting spot, right? They're going to be missing Montgomery, but I did some digging and I was telling you, Zach, feels like Amon-Ra 100 plus and a touchdown is almost a guarantee. There were 3 games that Montgomery missed last year, and he had 100 yards in, I think, all of them, and I think he might have scored in all of them. And Jahmyr Gibbs, he played well in all those as well. So it does seem like they do know what they're doing when they're down, David Montgomery. Um, I think that they're probably going to look to throw it a little bit more, even if that includes Diggs out of the or not Diggs, Gibbs out of the
Gibbs. Yep.
backfield. But yeah, the Bears just feel like a dead team. I don't think that there's going to be any ending on a high note for them here. I think they are just looking to get to the off season. I don't know if they're going to fire Poles. I feel like they should at this point. I feel like they get a clean house, but it's like they want to get that new head coach. They want to start focusing on continuing to build around Caleb Williams. It just they have no momentum. It just feels like a dead locker room. So the Lions, I mean, did you guys see Dan Campbell on the radio talking about like not giving up and shit like that? Like, I don't know. This is the type of shit that they love. So I feel like it's almost appropriate that, we've sat out the man Campbell the last couple of weeks, haven't got him on the wheel, and here they are, they're coming back. Especially when we need them the most, coming off a 1-4.
The Lions have won and covered 9 straight games after a loss dating back to November of 2022.
Wow.
Yep. Goff 18-8 against the spread after a straight up loss.
I'm pulling up the games that Montgomery missed last year. They went
KBA also. I didn't see the Dan Campbell one, but I saw the Aaron Glenn, their defensive coordinator. He had like a big press conference this week or middle of this week, talking about like I guess a reporter asked him, like, does it feel like the sky's falling on you or whatever, with all these injuries?
Yeah, and he's like, we're like 12-2. Like,
yeah, he was like, why would we be? Why is the sky falling on us? Like, we are in the playoffs. Like, we are the 1 seed. We are all these things. Like, we have a lot of good players. Just like they're not holding any. They're not hanging their heads at all. I think with all these injuries, it's almost more motivating for the guys who are playing, just to go out there and show that they're still legit. Like, these are the guys that are going to be here for the playoff run. They have a lot to play for still, and the Bears are a division rival, so fuck them, beat the shit out of them, especially when the Bears are down like this. Don't take them lightly, and just go out and take care of business.
So I pulled up the 3 games Monty missed last year. Like I said, they went 2-1. They won 20-6. They lost to Baltimore 6-38, and then they beat the Raiders 26-14. I would assume that they probably covered both of those spreads and those wins, unless they're like a 14-point favorite or something. But Amon-Ra in those 3 games, he had 102 yards on 12 targets. He had 102 yards on 19 targets, and he had 108 yards on 9 targets. Laporta also had a bunch of targets as well. He had 2 touchdowns. Him and Amon-Ra both scored in 2 of those 3 games. He had 84 yards. He had 52 yards. He had 57 yards. Gibbs had 152 and a touchdown. He was active receiving. He had 68 and a touchdown. He was active receiving. And then he had 80 yards and then, not much receiving there. But yeah, it seems like, in these instances, because they're really not like a deep team on offense, but it seems like that's when they really say, we are just committing to our guys, our pillars. Like, Amon-Ra is probably going to see 1 million targets, kind of like he did last week, where he just had like 190 yards. But yeah, I mean, I just feel like they're just going to focus on these guys. They're probably going to throw it a lot more, and it's going to be a lot of Amon-Ra, a lot of Laporta. Maybe JMO can break loose, but yeah, I think they're just going to go to those guys and just trust them with the ball. So, yeah, I like it. I like it inside of a touchdown.
I love it. All right. So we got recap the picks. I'm on the Vikings -3. Bowen's on the Jets +3. Kiernan's on the Cardinals -4.5. We are Costanza into the Cowboys +3.5. And then we had the walk-off man Campbell Lions -6.5. That's your 5-0 week.
All right.
Putting those in right now.
KB, good luck this week. Tristan, Kieran, and I are playing in our main our only Dynasty League semifinals this week.
Oh, you guys are playing each other?
Head
Yeah,
to head.
Nice.
so we
About
have
a coin flip.
we
I
have
think Bowen's projected to win by like 3 points, but right? It's about a coin flip by fantasy standards.
Yeah. I
the
mean,
projections mean nothing. The projections mean nothing.
anything can happen. So
Yeah, we're busy day today. I think we both got guys going in the 1 o'clock, and
Yeah, I got
yeah,
Hopkins. I
should be
got
a good
Mixon.
weekend.
And I think that's it for me today. And then you have Worthy, right?
I have Worthy, and then I have Lamar going at 4:30.
Yeah.
oh, that's the big one. That'll be the
He's got to get over that Steeler hump.
yeah. And Kieran, who's your QB?
I have Kyler Murray and then Sam Darnold. It's super flex.
Okay. Oh, interesting. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
I've been
nice.
Darnold's my guy. I've been holding on to him. So
Yeah.
nice to finally have that turn into something.
He's had some huge weeks.
It's been unbelievable. Yeah. I'm saying I picked him up last year because when they were going into camp with the Niners, they were worried that, about Purdy's elbow and everything. So I was like, I mean, fuck it. I mean, what if Purdy just like can't go for the first month and Darnold steps in and all year I was kind of waiting on, Purdy to have his moment where he becomes, he starts looking like the last pick of the draft again. That never came. But yeah, and then Darnold kind of just falling ass backwards into the starting role. It's like, everything, the stars align, and then hopefully, especially with it being Dynasty, hopefully he can get a nice big contract on in a decent system. I'd like to see him at least go to a good system next year. I don't want him just like go to some dog shit team that's paying the most because then, he might just become worthless again. So,
Yeah.
I feel like Darnold's made his money though in his career. I feel like he must be. I would hope he's looking out for, his longevity more than just like a quick payday.
I'm really hoping that Stafford just retires and he slides right into that. That would be
ideal. That
would be the best day ever.
Stafford retires and Darnold slides into the Rams.
Yeah.
What would have to happen, you think, for Stafford to retire? It feels like he's got.
I mean, it's been like 2 years now. Everyone just feels like he's like about to retire. I mean, they've kind of been doing the same thing with Travis Kelce too. But I mean, who knows? I mean, he's made his money. He got his ring. Maybe depending on how this Rams season ends and then, how he feels about their future outlook. I mean, who knows what Cooper Kupp wants to do either. I don't know what his contract's looking like right now, but I don't know. People, it just seems like everyone has Stafford on retirement watch for the last year or two. So I don't know. I mean, he's still playing decent football, but
He signed looking up Cups. He's in the Cups in the first year of a 3-year deal.
Mm.
So he's probably sticking around. But yeah, I mean that's one of those things
there
too.
there is an out after this year. So
Oh, there is?
yeah.
Wow, an out after the first year of the deal?
I don't know. I'm looking at Spot Rack. I don't know. Let me see if I can find. Yeah. Yeah, it looks like 3-year, 80 million. Does that add up? Let me see. Cap hit. Yeah, I think that's about right. Yeah. Yeah, first year potential out. I mean, it's like a decent cap hit. It's not like they can just cut him for free, but
Yeah.
that might just be something where they end up, restructuring like, hey, let us know where you're at. How do you plan on sticking around? And then maybe they restructure it, front load it. That way, if you were to retire after the next year, they can just kind of let him walk and be like, well, we paid him all the money last year and, he played pretty well for us. But
Well, he's had some injury issues too, So,
yeah,
but yeah, I mean, if I'm Stafford, it's like obviously, you look at they've got weapons, and it's like it's hard to walk away from that. But he'll know better than anybody if he feels like he can actually win with that team. So
Stafford also has an out
yeah,
after this year. So him and Cup could both technically be free agents. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I guess maybe that's probably why it's heating up for him, where it's like, yeah, he could get out of his deal now, and I mean,
Yeah.
again, it's still a 50 million dead cap hit, but
Yeah.
sometimes that's just better than coming back and playing and all that. I mean, look at what the Falcons, they're about to just take that on the chin. Like like I was saying earlier, they want to cut him before it's like March 17th because that's when his roster bonus would kick in. He'd get like an extra 10 million. So sounds like they're gonna let him go before that.
That's unbelievable. Like, what a horrible. That did not work out.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of funny though seeing how the pendulum has shifted because when they picked Penix, everyone was like, well, what the fuck?
Yeah, no,
Like
it's
what
like that was
that was like the worst use of a pick ever, and then now it looks like they were actually very smart to do that.
yeah,
Everyone's like, why did they take Dallas Turner? It's like, well, because they needed a quarterback, and I mean, then it just kind of makes you question, like, why? What did you see before you signed Kirk Cousins? That's what I want to know. Because
that
it seems like they got him in the building. They were like, I don't think he's ready. But it's like, how can you not find that out beforehand? Like, you can't have a guy work out for you and see that he can't run.
one. What made you commit that much money? And like,
Yeah, I mean, I guess part of it is like Kirk Cousins. He's gotten like fully guaranteed deals for like the last
yeah,
decade. So I guess part of it is like, well, I guess they did make a smarter move by downgrading him from that.
yeah,
And part of it is just like, I mean, like the price is the price. And
yeah,
I don't know, like at the same time, like I don't think anybody when they signed it, people definitely had some questions, but I don't think anybody was like, this is going to be the worst signing ever. Like, I mean, it's one of those where you knew that it could happen, but it just didn't
yeah.
seem like it was going to happen. I guess maybe people choose to be
Yeah.
optimistic with that stuff. But I mean, yeah, it looked bad the first couple weeks, looked okay
For
the
a few.
next like month and a half, and then he's just been terrible ever since. And
Yeah. What was
Rodgers too.
it?
I mean, I've been saying that for like a few years now, where it's like people just want to laugh in the face of the Achilles injury, and they want to act like it's the torn ACL now, where people just come back like, oh, Cam Akers, he's back 6 months after tearing his Achilles. Yeah, and he was horrible. He was averaging like 2 yards a carry when he came back.
Yeah.
James Robinson's career like ended despite coming back, and then it's the same thing. Like, oh, Rodgers came back so fast, he's going to come back, before the end of the season. That ends up not being true. He comes back this year and he looks like a shell of himself. And same with Kirk
Yeah.
Cousins. So it's like, people keep thinking that the Achilles is like an injury that we're starting to move past, and I don't think that's the truth at all.
No. No.
Like
It's
even
a
like Deontay Foreman, he was a guy that he tore it coming out of college, and he's been great when he's been getting that opportunity to step in and be like a workhorse for a team. But at the same time, there's also a reason that teams aren't seeing that and being like, we need to sign him to be our starting running back.
yeah.
Like there's
Yeah.
a reason that he's still being like inactive on game day until they have two running back injuries. Then he plays well.
Yeah.
But people still don't want to go back. And it's because, I don't know, something with these Achilles injuries. But
Yeah. All
um,
right. Well, let's go 5-0.
yeah.
Sir,
Do it.
let's get it
All right.
All
We'll
right.
see you guys.
Hey guys.
later.